This podcast aims to help you break in and thrive in advertising. And we do that every week by sharing the stories and advice from people who made it on the other side. This week, you will learn from Ian Grody. Ian is an executive creative director at Giant Spoon and a recent recipient of Adweek's Creative 100. Ian's been popping off lately at Giant Spoon. They're a mid-sized agency in New York City with some great clients you'll learn about soon. Ian and his team at Giant Spoon were integral in the new Stranger Things series launch. They concepted activations across the country and specifically launched the Rift visual on the Empire State Building that took the nation by storm with their incredible projection on the building. But Ian didn't start in advertising. Instead, he broke in from another creative writing career, one where he would write and pitch TV and movie ideas. You'll love Ian's episode, and you'll love the extra secret resources he recommends just for you. And we exclusively share those on our Instagram at Breaking and Entering Pod. All one word, at Breaking and Entering Pod. Now on with the show. This is the Breaking and Entering Advertising Podcast, and as usual, I'm your accomplice, Gino Schellenberger. Kick it, Mikey. All right, Ian Grody, welcome to the Breaking and Entering Advertising Podcast. Thank you so much for coming on. How are you doing today, Ian?
I'm doing great. I am coming to you after a couple of back-to-back pitches. I'm going to bring the energy to the best of my ability.
Yeah.
But I appreciate your understanding.
Of course. Appreciate you coming on. I know you're busy because you're over in New York. Everything's busy in New York, and you're an executive creative director at Giant Spoon. Is Giant Spoon a giant agency? Is my first question.
The Giant Spoon is a medium-sized agency that does giant work and works across giant canvases.
And you're an executive creative director. So how long have you been in that role? What's that like?
Sure. So I joined Giant Spoon a little over 4 years ago. I became the executive creative director properly, formally in title about a year and a half ago.
Okay.
But in joining the agency, my job from the jump was always to build the team from what was approximately 5 people, only arguably a team,
Wow.
to what it is now, which is not outsized, but probably around 30. And my job is to oversee all of the creative, experiential, and design work that comes out of our 2 offices in New York and LA.
Gotcha.
Yep.
And it's grown, you said, since you started 4 years ago. How many people were there when you started?
Sure. Total, gosh, I think just under 100. I think we're probably about 160 or so right now. And my team has grown from 5 or 6 to around 30.
Gotcha.
Yep.
Amazing.
Yeah.
How many can you get into clients? I know this is a touchy thing.
I can get into clients a little bit.
Who are we dealing with now? What are we thinking?
Sure.
Who are you just pitching? Just kidding. I know you can't talk about that.
That's a no-go. But I can tell you, historically, the holy trinity for Giant Spoon has been entertainment, gaming, and technology. Okay. So we have tremendous relationships with HBO, Netflix, Amazon, NBC, FX, as well as HP, Activision, and so forth. And so that is a space that we've historically played in for quite some time. My ambition personally and for the agency is to grow our business in the fashion and sports sectors, and we're actively doing that. And that is as much as I can say, sir.
Okay.
Yeah.
What were the cannabis, fashion, and sports?
Yeah. I want to do it for 2 reasons. The first is I think those are just wildly exciting places to be. I think that they attract top tier talent who can apply their sensibilities to all of the other work we do as well. And I think we have a talent for creating through the lens of culture, and those sectors, those verticals are such integral parts of culture. I think we are just equipped to kill there.
Yeah, that makes sense. Are you from New York? Are you a New York sports fan?
I know not a hell of a lot about football, baseball, or hockey, but I grew up as a New York basketball fan. I grew up on Long Island. I grew up going to Knicks games. I grew up, to date myself, like in the Pat Ewing, John Starks, like era of the Knicks. And so that played a big role in my life as a kid.
Okay. Something tells me you want to pitch the Knicks. That's fair.
I wouldn't mind.
Love it. All right. So you're ECD.
Sure.
And I think this is interesting now, like to our audience, because I keep forgetting that our audience is people that are trying to attempt to break in. They're aspiring advertisers. Yep. As I'm growing up, I started this 2 years ago. I'm growing up. Now I'm in the agency world.
Yep.
I keep forgetting that. I need to loop back to that. Tell people what the ECD does, because we were talking about a little bit before the podcast, when getting into the granular work or not. What does your role look like on the day, on a high level of a day?
Yep. So my role at the agency is a little different from the role of a creative director, who people who might be breaking in might be more familiar with. So my job is to set the vision for the greater department. Who do we want to be? What sort of work do we want to do? How can we actively win those clients? And how can we resource our team to be positioned to be successful across those projects? Then I come in at a high level across all of the work we do. I have to sign off on all of it before it goes out the door, and make sure that the creative integrity of the work is protected and is premium. Part of me will always wish, and I know I have this in common with a lot of ECDs or CCOs, that I could have my hands in the work a little more.
Yeah,
you do miss that.
You have to sacrifice a little bit there.
That's part of the transaction. You give up a little bit of creative opportunity in exchange for the privilege of setting the creative vision and working in partnership with the head of strategy, the head of media, to guide the company in the right direction. And of course,
yeah, but I'm sure you get called in on those new business pitches every time.
I do, of course. Of course. And there's always room in a company of our size for everyone to input, whether they're part of the creative department or not. We're a highly collaborative place. So do I get to leave my fingerprints all over the work? I absolutely do. So right. I don't want to diminish that, but I am not a creative director who is boots on the ground in the work on most of the stuff.
But I guess we could talk about, we can just go into this right now, because pitching it and you're in the room, you're creating those ideas, something that you pitched recently that was really interesting, covered on Adweek. I'm sure every trade article might have even gotten an award or so. I haven't done the research. Was the work you did for Stranger Things and Netflix.
Yeah.
Incredible work. I remember seeing it on my social, because I'm in the advertising trade publication world, of course, but I'm sure that transcended my sphere of influence as well. So tell us about that, because it was the Empire State Building, correct?
Yes, it was. Stranger Things and Netflix wanted to make a big splash for season 4, which is really the beginning of the end of their most iconic series.
Okay.
So they came to us and they said, how do you guys recommend doing that? And there was, of course, a pitch process around that. We pitched them a number of...
Were you pitching against other agencies, or was this already just internal? Okay.
No. We were pitching against other agencies. So it was a matter of who wins the day for this particular project.
Of course.
We pitched them a variety of activations, experiences, things that even felt more ad-like. And ultimately, they were really attracted to the idea of opening rifts around the world that became portals to the Upside Down. The Upside Down played a much larger role in season 4, and I think that's giving away nothing to Stranger Things fans.
That's right.
They ultimately entrusted us with activating in New York and taking our idea and finding other agency partners to activate globally. Our job was to use the Empire State Building as a canvas to program a 12-minute original piece of content that drew from seasons past, got people super hyped up and fired up, and then opened that portal to have monsters and villains that you haven't yet met emerge.
So the teaser as well.
Yeah. So tons of Easter eggs, tons of stuff, tons of fan service, which was wonderful. But the role of an ECD on a project like that is or my role on that project was to run the pitch, really stay closer to the work. We were successful. I then have an amazing team of experiential creatives who are equipped at creating across every conceivable and inconceivable canvas. So after building it to scale Westworld and building all sorts of unbelievable projects, they weren't intimidated. They were excited by the idea
of course,
of using this as a canvas. So I got to work more closely with them. There were parts of the process where I Legoed off even more and let my amazing writers write the story of that 12-minute program.
Interesting. Did you have to work with the Stranger Things production side, or like their writers for the that makes sense.
That was, we wrote this ourselves, but we needed the blessing of that team to say, yes, this is right. Yes, this is,
of course,
this is accurate. And
that's their baby.
Yeah, of course. And the Duffer Brothers were excited and signed off on it. They created Stranger Things. So everyone's in the mix. Everyone's saying, yes, this is it. This is something that we're fired up about. We work with showrunners so frequently. We want them to be proud of what we're outputting. We don't want to treat it like a commercial for the show. We want to treat it like an IRL extension of the series and the IP. So that's how we thought about it.
Gotcha. I can only imagine the production aspect. You must have a really great production team.
I have an absolutely all-star experiential team, a GCD named Monica Herman, who's so smart, Margaret, who runs our production things, Victoria Sobel, who is absolutely tremendous and runs the account side of things. So they're stars.
Gotcha. All right. How can people look that up? I saw it on Instagram, saw it on the Giant Spoon Instagram account, but where else would you recommend people go?
I think you can.
Because there's other activations too I want to see too, like the Australia ones you were saying, they're global.
Yeah, they're all over the place. I would just Google Netflix Global Riffs. Netflix Empire State Building will give you links to other activations across the globe. And the best part was I went to a dinner with my wife's family, a barbecue, and my 12-year-old nephew and my 75-year-old, 78-year-old, like uncle-in-law, I think that's what you call it.
Sure.
Had both seen it and we're both fired up about it and stoked on it. So
range. Look at that range.
Yeah, that was range. That was really cool.
That is cool. And to have your work recognized 12 to 76, that's amazing. That's the goal.
Yeah.
Good advertising should transcend all ages, all demographics, if it's based off something really cool, truth, interesting.
Yeah. Absolutely. Sense. That was it.
Did it win any, not that it matters, did it win any can awards?
We weren't able to enter it this year yet.
Too recent.
It is currently it will be entered in a variety of things next year. So fingers crossed. We love awards, but what we love even more is cultural breakthrough, where it transcends even the ad world and it's celebrated by fans.
But you were at Cannes this year.
I was at Cannes.
And that also went well for you because you had an interesting activation and pop up for Reddit, I believe, which you guys.
Yes.
Was that a one-time deal, or are you guys working with Reddit consistently? What's the relationship with Reddit?
Sure, that's a great question. We love working with Reddit. Reddit is one of our favorite clients. They're wonderful. They came to us and they said, hey guys, we want to show up at Cannes for the very first time. And there are a sea of activations at Cannes for those of you who haven't been there.
That's all it is.
Yeah. It's just Facebook Meta Beach and Twitter Beach. And this is not an indictment of those beaches, but I think they wanted to show up in a way that felt unique to them and differentiated. So
how do you do that when everybody's doing similar things?
Yeah, exactly. That's the question. So we built for them an Explorers Club, a quirky, left of center, sort of Wes Anderson-y take on an Explorers Club that you could navigate and in the process learn everything you want to know or need to know about Reddit as a business decision maker. But we had a good time doing it, and people take themselves seriously at Cannes. It was really refreshing to see a brand have fun and have a sense of humor and highlight the way that they used humor to win with people and help brands find their audiences.
There are some memes in there.
Yeah, there were no shortage of memes. No shortage of memes. But that was great. And we hope to work with them on more stuff. I think the relationship is a strong one. I can't comment on anything else that we're doing right now, but I can say we hope to work with them some more.
Yeah, makes sense. If you did well with the activation, I'm sure they'll see that and it'll turn out well.
They're amazing. They're an amazing team.
That's an interesting brand. I remember they did that Super Bowl 5 second, not even, it was like 1 second Super Bowl spot. That was like the big one. And then obviously this year was the QR code bouncing around.
For Coinbase was the big one this year, I think.
They got we don't have to have that conversation, but I forgot the brand already that it was for.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Interesting
it was.
insight there.
Reddit came out with their first brand campaign.
I remember that
campaign this year as well.
Oh, okay. Interesting. What was that's not.
It was all under the greater heading of find your people.
Oh, that makes sense. That makes so much sense, actually.
It makes a ton of sense.
Yeah. I do have some Reddit friends. You can tell, like, they love Reddit, and I do too, but they're fun people.
And those friends of yours like to just go deep on stuff.
Oh yeah. World War II history. They just know when they know something in their subject, whatever their subject is, they know everything about it.
That's your Redditor.
Yeah, makes so much sense. How'd you get into all this? Because you weren't always in advertising.
It's true.
How'd you break in? What was your breaking and entering story?
My breaking and entering story. It was a bit of a long walk to advertising for me. I came out of school writing plays and writing television.
That's awesome. Where'd you go to school?
I went to undergrad at Emory, and then I did a fellowship at the film school at NYU studying dramatic writing.
Oh, look at you.
Right? Impressive. And I sound like an important guy, but I didn't feel that important at the time. I did, however, end up for many years selling a TV show a year.
What do you mean by that? Because this is not advertising. So what was your goal? What were you doing out of school?
So I was, on one hand, doing anything I could to scrape together a few bucks. I was hosting Emmy screenings and checking people in. I was doing all sorts of odd jobs and PAing.
Okay.
Concurrently, I was writing shows for a couple of years, and 2 years after I graduated from school, I was signed by an agent and a manager who said, I think that this guy is talented. So they introduced me they host a bunch of what are called general meetings, where you are introduced to a variety of producers and you go on what's referred to as, or what was referred to before single use plastic became more of a thing, as a water bottle tour. And you go from production company to production company. You go to Bad Robot, and you go to the company that produced the Shrek movies, and you go to, you name it, anyone who might be interested in your work, you visit them, and you
for TV shows.
TV shows and films.
Okay.
I ultimately sold a pitch in one of those general meetings. Someone had read my work, and they said, this is a great idea for a show. We know you have the writing ability, and we love this idea, so we're going to pay you to write one. They had a deal with DreamWorks at the time.
Whoa, this is cooler than advertising. This is pretty cool.
It's pretty cool.
That's a gut reaction, obviously.
Yeah.
How much are you writing, though? What's the pitch? Like, how many pages is it?
Sure. The pitch that you ultimately present in the room is about 5 pages long.
Okay.
It's you
Script,
talking.
Right?
Yeah. It's you talking in a seemingly casual way about what your idea is, and then hitting a few key bullet points.
It's a show about nothing.
It's a show about nothing. And then you drop the mic and you walk out.
Yeah.
That's kind of it. So you do the thing. If you're lucky and they've read your work and they think you're good, they'll give you a shot and they'll pay out of pocket. And
what do they pay for? Just one pilot episode?
One pilot episode. So
that's what you want. You pitch how many times?
Out of that. It is a year's pay. If you sell a 1 hour and your quote is okay.
You sell a one
a 1 hour, meaning like a drama, like a 60-minute show, as opposed to a half hour, which is what they refer to comedies as. So you do that, and they'll order effectively 3 drafts and a polish. So 3 drafts of the script. It will take sometimes a month to get your feedback, and you just continue on with that process. And I had sold all different types of shows for many years too. That went to DreamWorks people, the Sci-Fi Network, MTV, CMT, and it just went on. And those shows were very much a living, but they weren't a life, because they were financing my decoration of the shelves and drawers of development executives who would read it, say, we love it. And then of the 8 pilots they ordered that year, give a green light to one of them, which was not mine.
Okay.
Concurrently, I was writing ads, all sorts of ad copy. And it was going live. And I said,
you're doing a little freelance work at the same time, you're saying?
Yeah, exactly. Just because you have all of these blocks of free time.
Yeah.
Between feedback.
Right. Waiting.
It doesn't take a year.
And you couldn't do anything else when you're waiting, like to better the process to help your chances?
Not really, because why do they care about what they refer to as baby writer bothering them when they're so busy and inundated? The best thing that you can do is hang back and not
just shut the hell up.
Yeah. It's shut the hell up mode and do the best writing you can when you get your at-bats. And I think a lot of it was but I just got so much more satisfaction and gratification from writing things and seeing them go. And after
a little bit more instant.
I did.
Did you sell any shows? That's what everybody's wondering right now.
Yeah. I got paid to write 7, 8 of them for 7 or 8 years.
What shows?
They were never picked up to series. So you've never seen them. That's why.
Okay. That's why. Okay. But they could still be like they're in a shelf somewhere. Somebody owns the rights to it. Maybe?
Yeah. So CMT and Sci-Fi, and they all own the rights to these shows.
In 5 years from now, if they're like, oh, what was that one show?
Yeah, they could, but I highly doubt it. But I wrote everything from a space opera called Leviathan for Sci-Fi to a raunchy country musical called Family Band for CMT to a superhero show called Nobody for MTV. So I really ran the gamut, and it actually played a large role in me coming to Giant Spoon later in the game to do a tremendous amount of entertainment work, because after freelancing and landing at an agency called Kettle for 5 years, where I did a lot of work for Luxottica and L'Oreal and a variety of other brands. Apple, we did a lot of work for Apple. Giant Spoon reached out and they said, we've seen the work that you've done in the past. We've read the work that you've done in the past. I featured it on my portfolio site. They saw the work I was doing at Kettle, which was very good, but it was polished docu stuff. It was beautiful, premium docu work, spots for Oakley and some narrative stuff for Persol. But really, they suspected that there was a gap. I wasn't painting with all of the colors on my palette. And that's exactly how they pitched me. They said, come to a place where you can do everything you do at Kettle and all the stuff that you used to do before in terms of the genre-based storytelling. And they didn't sell me a used car. They told me the truth. And that is ultimately why I landed at Giant Spoon, because there was so much entertainment opportunity to create work that felt indistinguishable from the stuff that you seek out for entertainment every day.
Love it. So you did well, and Giant Spoon liked you, sold you. You came over there. But I want to know, a little bit more into
tell me.
Diving a little bit more from when you were pitching scripts to doing freelance. You're doing freelance. How long did this go on until you were like, okay, advertising, I could do this full time? Did they pick you up Kettle, or did you go to Kettle? What was that? I want that transition, like that break right there.
It was, I wish I could tell. I wish it were a longer story.
It doesn't have to be.
But it's a very short one. I think I freelanced for about, maybe it was a couple of years, just picking up work here at a friend at Grubhub who was like, hey, we need someone to write the email copy, and we need someone to, it was like low lift, for me at least, lower funnel stuff initially.
Okay.
Or I did writing for a film distribution company, and I did press releases for them, and I did writing for, it's all fading from my Swiss cheese memory now. And I did work for a number of startups, writing all like building their sites and creating a brand for them. At that point, I had enough for a portfolio, and I reached out to a recruiter. This was probably 18 months into freelancing.
Okay.
And I got set up on my first interview, and half an hour after my first interview with Kettle, they made me a job offer.
Okay.
So Perfect. It was a very quick pickup, and I didn't go looking for other work when I was at Kettle. Giant Spoon found me, and I haven't been searching for long, and I count myself fortunate for that.
Yeah, absolutely. But why do you think you found like the success from months of copywriting? It's a good amount.
I was doing another sort of writing for years. I spent my 20s, and I'll be 40 on Monday.
Oh,
I spent my.
You look younger than that. That's good.
Thank you. I'm flattered. But
podcast, they can't see you.
Yeah, they can't see me, but I'm handsome. Believe Gino, I'm handsome. I spent my 20s as a professional writer writing television shows. It wasn't hard to jump in and do something that was different, but at the time less challenging.
Yeah.
So I had all of that behind me, and I had a skill set that not everyone else had access to, and that was my unique value prop.
Absolutely.
It was like this.
And
guy
everybody says they want to be a storyteller. You literally were telling, like, you were a storyteller.
Absolutely. And I think along the way, I certainly haven't given up the writing professionally on the side stuff. I just published a comic in partnership with the Tribeca Film Festival this year, and a company called AWA, 150 like beautiful pages illustrated by one of the artists from Hellboy.
Oh, cool.
Which is super cool. You have to stay sharp, and I think you bring all of that always into the work.
Where can they find work? What's it called? Where can we find
Sure. It? It's called Lesser Evils. I think they dropped 15,000 at the Tribeca Film Festival. They probably sent 5 to every comic shop in the country. I think a lot of them are sold out. But I know they're going on eBay for $45, which is crazy.
Wow.
Which is really cool. And then on August 28th, the first issue in the anthology series called Emmett will be at your local comic book shop, and you can pre-order it now if you like.
Wow. That is impressive.
Thank you. It's just I firmly believe you need to feed that part of yourself. You cannot get rusty. And although I mentioned to you earlier that I miss being in the work, the ability to write at a high level, at a pro level, and output work that people genuinely enjoy and dig is what keeps me sharp. So when I come into a meeting and they need creative help, those knives are sharp and my instruments are like ready to go. I'm not sitting back getting rusty.
I love that. I do love that. Yeah. The more you use it,
yeah, you have
the more dull you'll be. Yeah. What's that part of your brain though that you're saying you got to feed?
I think you need to nourish your brain or nourish your soul and sharpen part of your brain. The part of your brain that you need to keep sharp as you continue to grow up in the industry and become more of a supervisor and a vision person as opposed to a tactical person is the part that does the tactical work. What do I do with the words? How do I solve a creative problem quickly? You need to keep that sharp.
Okay.
You also need to remember what's good and how it feels to do the work, to be a compassionate leader. I would also say that the part of your soul that you nourish outside of selling refrigerators and fucking vacuum cleaners is important. You know what I mean? You need to stay pure in that way.
Yeah.
And I do think that if you approach everything with that attitude as a true artist, not someone who's phoned it in or isn't doing what they wish they were doing before, then you'll get to much better work that will, again, break through.
I love that. Keeps you honest, it's your North Star as well.
That's it.
Perfect. And what's your last piece of advice if you go back in time and you're starting back in advertising? What would you tell yourself?
Sure, absolutely. Search your feelings. That's a Darth Vader thing. and maybe you're taking advice from the wrong Star Wars character, but I think it's a good piece of advice. Increasingly, as you become more experienced and you're asked to do more and more, you would think that you call upon past experiences and the wisdom that you've earned and gathered over time. And that's true, but the number one tool that you have is your gut and your instinct. And the closer that you can get to it, the better. The more that you can stay attuned to the still small voice inside of you that tells you what's good and what's not good, even when it whispers, the better and more successful, the better work you'll do and the more successful you'll be. So I always say, search your feelings and really pay attention to your instincts and even the way your body feels when you're experiencing a piece of creative, because that will tell you everything or most of the things you need to know about its quality and efficacy.
I love it. That gut reaction. Don't forget about it.
Don't forget about it. Prioritize it.
I like that. Awesome. Ian, how can people reach out to you if they have any other questions? You've been so helpful. You have a lot of resources. It seems like you listed some out. We have those on our Instagram page, but if they want to talk to you, get some advice, what's the way to do so if they're allowed? Sure.
They are definitely allowed. Please, I'd love to chat with other people who are doing this. My email at Giant Spoon is ian.grody, Grody, at giantspoon.com. Just pop me an email. I'm always down to have a cup of coffee or something stronger, and we can get into it. I'm happy to do that anytime.
Great job. We appreciate you, Ian.
Of course, man. Thank you for having me on. It's honestly been a pleasure.
Of course. Thank you. Thank you so much for listening to the entire episode of the Breaking and Entering Advertising Podcast. If you like what you heard, it would mean a lot to us and help us grow if you can just leave us 5 stars on Apple Podcasts. And if you have time to leave a small review, that's great too, but really that 5 stars will help us a lot. And be sure to connect with our guests. We want to help you break in. The way to do that is by going to our Instagram at Breaking and Entering Pod, all one word, at Breaking and Entering Pod on Instagram. There we have links to their portfolios and their LinkedIn and their secret resources, and they want to connect. So go do that. And some thank yous. Thank you to our creative and production team, Buchun Jung, Juan Camargo, and Mikey Malarkey, and our PR team, led by Nicole Tolochko and the AAF group from the University of Illinois. Thank you all so much, and we will see you next week with another amazing guest.